So the first thing I want to do is get some clarity around the concepts of forest gardening. What we're not trying to do is mimic the deep forest, the old growth forest. More it's like hedgerow gardening or hedgerow farming. The spaces where it's in transition. There's early, there's mid, there's aged, mixed together. I mean, we're basically looking at almost all the layers of a forest garden right here, or hedgerow garden. So we're seeing the tall tree layer is the pine tree. That was there. It's a legacy tree that they're building around to some extent. The tall shrub, small tree layer might be where we're seeing these black walnuts. Their successional pattern will be to be the overstory big trees in the system. They'll be the biggest players here. We have Amelanchier, or the serviceberry shrub, right over here. Makes a delicious berry early in the season. It's like a mild blueberry with a little almond finish. There's your large shrub, small tree layer. It's a great example of it right there. The herbaceous layer, right? So in here we're looking at the grasses, the comfrey, the docks. It looks like there might even be a turnip in there just out of nowhere, which is great. Anything that emerges in the spring, grows for a full growing season, and then returns to the earth in the fall. That can be an annual. Edible forest gardens does not mean exclusively perennial. Like if there's an annual in it, you failed kind of thing. They play a role in succession. They play a critical role. They're generally the first elements that arrive to do the repair work following disturbance. So designing without them in mind is kind of really missing a critical stopgap in production and soil health. The ground cover layer, the vine layer, exactly. And again, there's a real blending here. You know, what's what? It's hard to say. What age is it? What stage is it? So, you know, the tree, small tree or canopy layer. But vines are the things that run through the whole system. We know what vines are. Ground cover and herbaceous, little tricky who's who, right? Here we have, in this example, some grasses as the herbaceous layer, and then below it, it's a perennial ground covering golden moneywort. We'll call it green golden moneywort for now. But that's a nice example of a ground covering layer. That's as tall as it wants to get. That generally occupies the 0 to a couple of inches context. The bush or the small shrub layer, these are the plants that occupy the human harvest range. Without pruning, without lots of intervention, you generally get food where you are. In this case, do folks know who this plant is? Currant. That's a black currant. Most of ribes, the currants, the gooseberries, they tend to not be affected by deer or rabbit browse. I think they smell strongly enough, or they have enough spikes on them. Any time of year, there generally is something to nibble on. It's the black caps in mid-season, it's the apples in the fall. There's just this sense of bounty. Grapes are hanging there, and it does its thing on its own. And we also have the seaberry here, tall shrub, small tree layer. You know, while it's young, while you're waiting to get into a big harvest window, be using this as a scaffold to grow some lightweight vines, maybe some annual vines up it. I don't see any reason why you couldn't have cucumbers coming up here. So I throw thornless blackberry canes through my young northern pecan trees. And this way I don't have to use fencing for them. It's just there willing to hold it. But there's so many ways that these plants can interact. The shade desirable or shade tolerant crops, like for example, black currant. And so as this gets shadier and shadier, the black currants are still going to be happy for quite a while. If your concern is how long you're waiting, you pack in the annuals on the way towards eating that thing. So you're eating the first season that you're developing your edible forest gardening. I mean, if you have 30-day annual crops like arugula and things, you know, in the sheet mulch or around the mulch of the apple tree that you just planted, you're eating in 30 days out to 1,000 years. The recommendation I have with it is to start right away and start small. Put in the annuals with some perennials. As the perennials get established and start to expand and do their thing, let the annuals segue away, pioneer a new space that's annual dominant with a keystone perennial or two. Polyculture is the idea of designing guilds or groupings of plants that relate to each other in a positive way. But here's an example where we've got a young apple tree, I'm guessing, and they probably didn't plant this part of the guild, but we have curly dock. Now here's your apple. that its nature is to slowly get bigger and bigger. It will eventually be a source of intense shade for underneath, but there's this gap underneath where the roots of the grass are very happy to fill that niche, but they're a competitor for apples because they also have shallow root systems. So we want to keep the grass out of here. Yellow dock or curly dock here, which is I think this root system goes straight down. So this is a really great taprooting plant. It'll grow here. It'll never compete with the apple for light. And this plant next year will send up a bolt, a nice stiff stem, put on tons of seeds and drop more yellow dock. Here's a plant that's decompacting the soil. It's accessing micronutrients and minerals that are deeper in the soil horizon than this apple will ever have an ability to access. Just like comfrey, it's another perennial plant. They're challenging because they're hard to eradicate because they are so deeply plugged into the earth. But if you're designing with them with the inevitability that they're going to show up because you've disturbed the soil and that you're happy to see them because they're doing good work, then it's awesome when you see it. Like, that's great that this is here. This is a plant called Egyptian walking onion. It's a perennial onion family plant. It's a shallot. Allium family tends to be a olfactory, a pest confuser. And rabbits, mice, and voles that think they might want to come in here and nibble while they're burrowing in the soil. If you had a full ring, and that's what they're slowly working towards, a full ring of Egyptian walking onion around this tree, that is an allium minefield. And you can eat them. So this is a propagule. In other words, I cracked that off. I can see it's already pushing new roots here. And anywhere this sits on the soil, I don't even have to plant it. I could just do that. It will root there. Comfrey. A lot of people don't ever want to plant comfrey because it spreads everywhere. It does not spread anywhere until you disturb the soil around it. So keep that in mind. So once it's flowered and the stalks start to flatten out, it sends up new shoots that are healthy. Take the old ones, use them while they're fresh and in a good way, and then it should reduce that and grow it in full sun. Generally, my interaction with this is like with the hoary. I come in and I'm like, thwack, boom, next, boom, and I'm just going, right? The finer you chop anything, the more volatile they are. So the more the sun hits them, the rain hits them, the more the nutrients come up into the atmosphere or wash out quickly. And the more you're force feeding the soil food web in a way. And this is great habitat for a while. Underneath this tree, that's an awesome spot for spiders to go and live for a while, stuff to get out of the shade. Maybe it's the toads going under there for a bit. The more wild and dense you can let things be, the less work you have to do in the long run. It's a fine line between that and the balance of, I need to get to that food. It's a jungle.